Hey piano people! This practice technique is truly revolutionary, and when you follow the advice in this video, not only are you going to learn 10 times faster, you are going to sound 10 times better. But I want you to make sure to stay tuned until the end of the tutorial, because it's not just about hearing what this revolutionary practice technique is, it's about actually learning the steps to implement it into your practice so that you have success with it. Now, towards the end of the tutorial, I'm also going to share a secret with you that will help you play with more accuracy, meaning less wrong notes and less mistakes. Let's dive in. I have a free class coming up, and this free class is perfect for you if you struggle with repeated wrong notes, or if you want to improve your sight reading, or if you want to be able to sit down and just play with more freedom and more flow. This class is completely free, and you can reserve your seat below using the link in the description. The piano practice technique that's going to help you learn 10 times faster is what I like to call 98% accuracy, 98% of the time. Now, I've talked a little bit about this on the channel, but I've never done a tutorial where I go in depth and talk about what this means. When I say accuracy, what I really mean is playing it consistently the same. Consistency is key in piano practice because it's consistency that allows your brain to remember things from day to day. See, when you're practicing and you play something correctly, and then the second time you play it, let's say you play a wrong note, and then the third time you play it, you'd play a different wrong note, what's happening is you're giving your brain mixed signals every single time you play the piece. You're confusing your brain. And the analogy that I like to use here is, let's say that you are driving to work. Okay? And every single day you take the same route and you do it over and over and over again. And we've all had those days where we arrive at work and we realize, like, oh my gosh, I don't even remember driving here. And it's because you did the same thing over and over and over again. And in the very beginning, it took a lot of conscious effort for your brain to remember how to get to work. But after doing it repeatedly the same way, your brain remembers it. And the process of how to get from point A to point B takes up a lot less mental energy than it did before. Now, let's say that you get a new job in a new part of town and you're not very familiar with that part of town. If you did what you did before at your old job and you take the same route to work every single day, before you know it, you're gonna know how to get to work and you're not gonna have to think so hard about it. But if every single day you take a different route to work, it's going to take you significantly longer to remember how to get from point A to point B. You have to approach your piano practice in the exact same way. Now, the cool thing about this is when you focus on doing something consistently accurately, meaning the same every single time you play it, it also helps you feel more successful in addition to helping your brain remember what you're doing from day to day. Now, I am going to share with you how to get that consistent accuracy later in the video, but one thing I want to touch on is that you're going to need data. In order to know if you are doing something accurately 98% of the time, you have to play it more than one time, right? Because if you play it one time correctly, that's great. It's 100% correct. But as soon as you start introducing more repetitions, that number might change. Most people do not do enough repetitions when they are drilling something. And this leads to big problems because your brain is not going to remember it if you only repeat it correctly once or twice. You need consistent repetitions many times in a row. Now, this even happens with members of the Casual to Confident Piano Player program. Like when I am on Zoom with them and I'm watching them play, I will often have people practice with me so I can talk them through it and show them exactly what they're supposed to be doing. And I'll kind of sit back for a minute and I'll say, okay, drill this a few times and I want you to show me how you would practice it. Pretend I'm not here. Show me how you would practice it if you were all by yourself. And they'll play it right like 2 times and then move on. And even after being aware of this method for a really long time, and even after practicing this method for a very long time, they still make that mistake of not doing enough repetitions. I will often recommend that you do 10 repetitions of something, okay? Because if you're doing 10 repetitions of something and you need 98% accuracy, you know that you pretty much have to do it 10 times in a row correctly. Now, you're gonna have to use a little bit of your own discretion here. I would say if it's going really, really well and you do it 9 out of 10 times correctly and you feel really good about it and it feels very easy by the end of those 10 times, that's probably good enough. But you wanna get as close to 98% as possible. Now, once you have the correct number of repetitions, a lot of people get stuck on how to do it that many times in a row accurately. Because if you're drilling a really challenging section of a piece, or let's say you're even trying to play from beginning to end of an entire piece, how are you going to do it accurately 10 times in a row? The answer is often a lot more simple than you think. At this point in the process, people often think that there's some sort of like magic secret answer. But if we're thinking about trying to do something 10 times in a row accurately, and we can't do it accurately, we have two options. We can make the section smaller, or we can go slower. Okay, and sometimes it takes both. So let's say that you're drilling a phrase of a piece and you're trying to play it 10 times in a row accurately, but after the second time, you keep making the same mistake over and over and over again, and you can't get yourself to 10 times accurately. What you're going to do is make the goal a lot smaller. So if you can't do the whole phrase 10 times accurately, maybe you can do one measure 10 times accurately. And if you put it down to one measure and you still can't do it accurately, you might need to go a lot slower with that one measure in order to get your 10 repetitions with that consistent accuracy. Oftentimes, it's not that it takes a magical ability to be able to play something 10 times in a row accurately, it's that people don't really want to slow down and they don't really want to practice smaller sections. Because when I tell you to slow down and practice a smaller section, it's totally natural if you're thinking like, that's going to take forever. That's going to take so long for me to be able to learn this piece. But that's not actually true. When you go slower and when you go smaller and you get those consistently accurate repetitions, it actually takes a lot less time to learn a piece from the ground up because you're doing it in a much more methodical way that your brain can remember. Now, I'm asking you to bring a lot of awareness to when you are playing something correctly and when you are playing something incorrectly. And I'm not doing this because the goal is perfection. That is not the goal. It doesn't actually matter if you're making mistakes or not from a point of like judgment or a point of are you doing it correct. What matters here is we're trying to jumpstart our brain to be able to remember things. So as you're doing this type of practice and you're starting to notice like, okay, I did it correctly, I did it incorrectly, I did it correctly, I did it incorrectly, don't go to a place of self-blame. Don't go to a place of like, oh my gosh, I can't do this right, I'm not doing this, it's impossible for me. As an adult, it's so common for you to blame yourself, but mistakes are a part of learning. And pretty much the only guarantee that I can make you about your piano journey is that you will make mistakes, and that's a part of the process. So the point of this is not to get hard on yourself or, really rally against yourself if you're making mistakes. It's just to notice the mistakes and use that information to make different choices in your piano practice so that you can hit 98% accuracy 98% of the time. So instead of taking your mistakes and thinking, oh, I'm doing such a bad job, just use your mistake as an opportunity to slow down or move into a smaller section. Now, when you use this practice method, it might be kind of confusing to know like how should you apply it and where should you apply it. And I'm gonna make it really simple for you. You can actually use this method for any part of your piano practice. So if you're focusing on rhythm, you can use this piano practice method for just clapping and counting out loud rhythm. If you're focusing on trying to play a phrase musically, you can use this practice method for getting 98% accuracy 98% of the time with the musicality and the dynamics of your piece. You can use it for any step in the learning process. And inside Casual to Confident Piano Player, you use the confidence roadmap, which gives you all of the milestones that you need to hit from point A to point B of learning a piece. And so you use this method along with other revolutionary practice methods to help you hit those different milestones on the roadmap so that you can learn any piece with a high level of musicality and accuracy. And I go super in depth on this topic and break it down for you even more in my free event called Piano Practice Lab. I do this event a couple of times a year, and the next one is coming up in January 2024. I don't have the exact dates yet, but if you register for the event, you'll be sent a confirmation email and you'll also be sent the exact dates as soon as I release them. Even if you can't make the live event, you can register using the link in the description below, and this will reserve you not only a seat in the live event, but also you'll get replays delivered to your inbox. So go ahead and implement this practice technique. Let me know how it goes for you. Comment below and tell me how this technique works for you. And then join Piano Practice Lab for January 2024. You can do that right here on the end screen. Happy practicing.